I'm just going to talk a bit. So, just a little bit of my background. I got a feel for Buddhism when I was quite young, 19, 20, and I went to Japan and lived in a Zen complex for nearly a year. Came back, had various other Buddhist teachers, and then got involved in this movement, Triratna. And I was very struck early on by the emphasis that Sangharakshita, or Bhante, as we called him, put on the teachings of Shantideva. And this is one of the main books that we're focusing on for this period, entering the path of enlightenment. And I had never heard of Shantideva until then, but in a way he was everywhere. I mean, a lot of the chanting that we do, the pujas that we do on retreat and so on, are based around what he wrote and his approach and attitude. And during that time, in the early years, Bhante would often mention him as a very central, pivotal figure in Buddhist history. And so he led various seminars and study groups on Shantideva's teachings, some of which I went to. Now, I wanted to just sort of draw out a couple of things and then in a way talk about them in a more general way, in a way making them my own, as it were. And at a certain point, we'll have an opportunity to break out into groups and have little discussion groups about what I've been talking about. So, Shantideva, I mean, in a way, it's not just Shantideva, it's sort of central to the whole Buddhist tradition, is that becoming aware of your motivation, your momentum, your inspiration, your enthusiasm for engaging in the process of your growth and development is really important. It's something that you need to remember periodically. Now, just to, in a way, make this my own for a moment, there's a phrase that I came up with. Actually, I think I was on a beach in Turkey, just meditating. And the term was, "Am I up for this?" And when I came up with that term, it just seemed really useful. Am I up for it or not? And the yes meant that I could engage with the yes. The feeling, yeah, I am into this. I want to do this. I want to be present. I want to engage. I want to work with the 3 C's and coming back and absorbing. And the sort of, in a way, the honouring of that yes seems really important. But if you get no, no, actually, I'm not up for it. Where's my duvet? Sort of mentally under the duvet. That's really useful to know. Otherwise, you're just sort of, as it were, clocking into the meditation. You might be doing the 4 stages of the mindfulness of breathing, for example, but you're not into it. You're not up for it. You're not emotionally engaged. So to make it a real meditation, you need to know that you're up for it. And if you're not, I think that there are two qualities which are very important or helpful. One is self-encouragement. So you say, well, actually, you can do this. This is a good time. You came here, you sat down, keep going. I think that this is almost like a Western mantra. Keep going. Oh, there he is, Shantideva. Thank you very much. Nice to see you. Keep going with what you're doing, because the mind wants to jump off, but you say, no, keep going with this. Stay with it. It's fine. Yes, it's a bit awkward or it's a bit uncomfortable. There's discomfort in this, or there might even be a bit of trepidation, but keep going, broaden, open, absorb that trepidation into the body and the breath. So encouragement, learning how to encourage yourself in your own way, is a personal skill, actually. And I think once you start to engage with that skill of encouraging yourself, then it just becomes easier. The second aspect that is very useful to this question of am I up for it? No, is around the word enthusiasm. Now, enthusiasm can be very fiery, very wild, full of energy, passionate, and lots of engagement. Or it can be on a much lower level, this actually is a good thing. It's fine. I do want to do this. I do feel that I get benefit. It's not always obvious, but when I think about it, when I reflect on it, there are benefits from practicing mindfulness in everyday life and meditation particularly, and the positive qualities of kindness and care and compassion, that I do see that they have an effect on me and on others. And that the underlying quality to that reflection is, you could call just enthusiasm for practice. Now, as I said, it doesn't have to be really fiery, fireworks. It can be quite subtle. And I think part of the skill here is actually recognizing the subtlety of your enthusiasm. So those two things are ways, encouragement and enthusiasm are two things that help with, I might be sitting here for 40 minutes, but I'm not going to really get into it. Forget it. Dealing with that, if you have it. But the third thing that I want to mention that helps you galvanize yourself and engage with practice is, in a way, a perspective between, on the one hand, having a meaningful life in which you grow and develop. Your qualities grow, your kindness grow, your ability to listen to yourself and others grows. Your calmness in crazy situations, your ability to be calm grows over time. And the recognition that growth and development comes directly, and in a way only, out of being present. If you're engaged and present, then you grow and develop. So out of this comes, in a way, quite a stark contrast which is the reflection that if you're always away, you won't grow and develop. And how do you feel about that? Now, just bringing a personal point about this, making it not just so theoretical. It probably started at school when I was quite young, because I didn't have either an aptitude or an interest in school, and I just started fantasizing, using my imagination, and it just carried on after I left school into when I started to meditate, going into fantasies and feeding those fantasies were sort of hard written into my mind as a tendency. And there was a certain point when I got this understanding that I've been talking about, where I realized that if I was away in some kind of fantasy, whatever it was, that there was no growth and development. And it was a sort of shocking moment for me when I realized I had to make a choice to really cut out and stop that tendency to go into fantasy, which I did. I got very determined. So this, sometimes when you sit down, there can be a couple of intentions. One is to do the mindfulness of breathing on the bells when it's led, and the other is to fantasize about something. And unless you actually really decide not to go into the fantasy and to clear it, then actually it might just happen anyway, and you might not even know it. It'd just be in the background. So you have to make a decision. No, I'm going to do 3 C's, check. Have I gone to my favourite fantasy of whatever sort it is, clear it, and come back? And so in that way, you're dealing with this, I can't be bothered. And you're engaging with, no, this is important. This actually matters. Every time that I go a little, there's a shift in my meditation. I get a bit stiller, a bit calmer, a bit more open, a bit more warm-hearted. It has a positive effect on me, and that matters. It's meaningful because it means that I am growing and developing. And I can have confidence in that process of growth and development as an individual. So confidence here in the process, or even you could say a faith in the process, and that the meditations starts to deepen and it carries you forward. So the confidence deals with the tendency to, I'm hopeless at this. I'm really, really hopeless. I can't do it. It undermines that tendency. A little thing that happened once, I was leading a retreat in Maine, in America, and we were doing the 4 stages of the mindfulness of breathing, and afterwards an experienced meditator, actually an order member, came up and said, I'm a hopeless meditator. I can't meditate. And I said, well, why do you come to that conclusion? And she said, well, I can't count to 10. I said, okay, try 3. And then after the meditation, she came back and she said, I'm a brilliant meditator. And I said, yeah, you just got to do what's realistic sometimes. The format is 10, But if you just stick with that, it can undermine you, which is just against the spirit of the thing. It's not helpful being undermined by your own efforts, where you get this view you're hopeless. It's not helpful, obviously. So this is a little tip. Try 3 sometimes and build up and get that confidence. I can go to 3. That's great. Even getting to 2 might be, a feeling of confidence, give you a feeling of confidence. So this enthusiasm, motivation for practice is directly mirroring Shantideva's teaching, actually. He was saying you need that, you need to pay attention to that. And and once you have that sense of I'm up for it, you know what that feeling of being up for it feels like. It has a very particular feeling, quality, tone to it. And there is a sense, as it were, of you lean into what you're paying attention to. You're not leaning back from it, or holding back, or squashing. You're leaning into your attention to your body. What's happening, the process of clearing, coming back, staying present. I really like this term leaning into, because it sort of counters a tendency which many people have of pushing their attention willfully. And it obviously very rarely, maybe occasionally, but mostly doesn't work. If you find you're very willfully pushing yourself to be mindful or to meditate, you need to back off slightly and allow more receptivity and openness in your awareness of the breath or loving kindness, for example. So you have enthusiasm and encouragement, which gets you to that point, I'm into it. And I'm just going to say a few more things about a particular important principle in meditation and Buddhist practice. And it's one that you will hear often when you come to classes, go on retreat and so on, which is integration. And mentally you might go, oh, here we go again, integration. But you need, in a way, to make that word your own, so that you, for yourself, know what it means for you to integrate. So I'm just going to say a few words about it. And again, there'll be opportunity in the little discussion groups to talk about this. Fundamentally, it's having a sense of your body, how it feels, even you could say its drives, your emotions, which include your being up for practice and your passions, and your thinking. And there is in mindfulness, a clear directive to bring those 3 things, body, emotions, feelings, and thought, together as a complete whole experience. So one often hears, oh, I've been very much in my head. I think it happens a lot at work for people. They're having to think a lot and they're just in their heads. But if that happens to you, you need to, in a way, draw down to your body and your general sense of emotions. What's happening and connecting. Now, I teach, and I have been teaching for 12 years in a very big development bank, 1,000 people in the building. And there are people who have been coming for 12 years regularly, which I have to say, very proud of and glad for. And they are so busy with thinking. But when they come to the lunchtime class, it gives them a clear direction and memory to integrate, to come into a broader, wholer sense, experience, and understanding of themselves. And they talk about that, and they say, well, this is really what I needed. Before I was just all here, and now I'm a whole person, and which includes, how I feel about things, and as well as what I think about things, and my body's sense of things. So this is a sort of foundation of integration, and how, going back to our first point before the tea break, that I was talking about absorbing your anxiety or irritations into your body and the breath, and, as it were, the deeper qualities of your mind. It's a skill of integration. It's an ability to integrate, which is why I've been banging on about it so much. It just seems so important. So, just to finish, before we go into little groups to talk about whatever it is that I've been talking about, or what comes out of the meditation before the tea break, the absorbing, clearing and absorbing, could be interesting just for you to articulate how you found that, whether you found it easy or difficult, useful. That you basically keep a thread of continuity in your mindfulness that helps you be a whole and complete person. So, nice and simple.